Prepare for launch. 3, 2, 1.
This is Mark Pukita. I'm at an event in Ashland, and I've only got a few minutes, but this is maybe the most important video that you watch today, the most important message you get today. It is urgent that we take over the Ohio Republican Party by getting citizen candidates elected to state central committee. The deadline to get petitions in is February 2nd. Watch and listen and read the things that we'll be posting today and over the weekend. This is urgent. You need to get up and you need to decide to run for state central committee.
Hello, everyone. This is Chris. I'm sitting in for Mark today, and we are going to run down something that's very important and that everybody needs to get razor focused on, and that is taking back our Republican Party in Ohio, not their Republican Party, not the swamp creatures, not Banana Republic, Baghdad, Bob Paduchek, but our Republican Party, the people that do the work, the people that vote, not the elites that try to trick us, fool us, and manipulate us with their same old retread candidates over and over again that tell us all the conservative stuff they're going to do when they're running and then don't do anything when they are in office that looks to us like what we're told in the primary. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to have, I guess, one or two segments, but the first segment is just going to go through the mechanics of how to run for state central committee. And it's more important than ever because the deadline is imminent. So the deadline is imminent for running for state central committee, and it is February 2nd is the date for filing petitions. And we're going to talk all through the process and what's involved. It's very simple, but we wanted to make sure that everybody knew how to do it. And you might say, Chris, why didn't we do this sooner? Well, we've done it several times on Truth Bomb live streams where we talked about how to run for state central committee. And this time I'm just going to go a little more mechanical on it. But there's also some events that have taken place that have had an effect. And some of you, if you're my age, you might remember Fonzie jumping the shark. Anybody remember Fonzie jumping the shark? It's become known in pop culture. Some young people might not even know where the jump the shark moment phrase came from. But it's when Fonzie jumped a shark as part of Happy Days that marked the demise of the Happy Days series. And it's seen as being on a TV show when something so ridiculous happens in the show that it forever changes the viability of that show being able to be on TV. And so Fonzie jumping the shark was that moment. And I think that Bob Paduchek and his buddies in the ORP have taken the ORP up the ramp with Fonzie and jumped the shark. And they have set the seeds of the demise of this ongoing rigging of primaries by the Ohio Republican Party in their actions to lock people out of the meeting, to have secret candidate interviews, all of those things. Hey, but what the heck? Let's watch Fonzie jumping the shark before I get into it. Okay, so there was Fonzie jumping the shark. Hopefully, you enjoyed it as much as I did both now and when it actually happened when I was younger. So here's what's going on in the jump the shark moments. Right now, the swamp establishment, the Bob Paduchek type swamp ORP establishment, is doing everything they can to basically turn us into a communist state, a Politburo run state, and starting with dirty tricks. So, dirty tricks they're doing is they're putting candidates up against state central committee members to intentionally deceive voters. These people don't believe in democracy or republic. They believe in control and them controlling things. They are about as far off from our founders as we can imagine. So, this is an example. Mark Bainbridge, which, as we know, is an outspoken proponent for financial transparency and an audit and ethics in the ORP, is being targeted. But they don't just get targeted with somebody challenging them, like what we think of as being an honest election. They get targeted with dirty tricks. And look at this. So Mark Bainbridge is supposedly, from what I've been told, now being challenged by somebody whose name is Brian Bainbridge. This is how these people work. We'll go out and get somebody with the same last name to confuse the voters. And we'll have another person that has a very simple ballot name, Josh Brown. So we'll split up this vote so we can make sure that Mark Bainbridge gets out of office. We'll do everything we can to keep that from happening, but it just shows you the mentality of these people. They stand up there at a microphone like Bob Paduchek or Justin Biz and talk about how they want financial transparency. They're all about it. They tell the press that, and the lapdog press just eats it up. And that, while at the same time, what they're doing is trying to do dirty tricks to take people out of office that are the people that are working for financial transparency. So some other things that are jump the shark moments is that are a panel of about, I think, 18 people secretly interviewed candidates for endorsement. It should have been live streamed, should have been online. Don't we as Republican, the people that make the party what it really is, the voters, deserve to hear these interviews? Nope, not in Bob Paduchek's ORP. We do them in the back room secretly, and not by you, the voters, just by our inner circle of swamp buddies that are part of a committee that's established. The next thing that is a jump the shark moment that's created a lot more interest in people trying to take out these certain people on State Central Committee is the announcement that the public will be locked out of the February 4th ORP meeting, the Ohio Republican Party meeting, that is taking place, where they will look at endorsing Mike DeWine. What does this tell you? Mike DeWine is so popular that they have to lock the public out of the meeting in order to endorse him. And there's so many false narratives associated with this that are being used to make this sound like it's some good thing to lock people out of a meeting. It is an absolutely absurd thing to do. And it is a total misreading of what's going on, I think, in the Republican base that is just sick of this kind of stuff. It's not just about Mike DeWine. It's about an ongoing pattern of us being treated like dirt by people like Bob Paduchek, and before him by Jane Timken, and before him by indicted Matt Borges. Did these people not realize we just had a $61 million bribery scheme involving Larry Householder and Jane Timken tied at the hip? And they act like everything is fine, and it's not their problem. It's our problem, the Republican voters' problem, that we're having, that there are so many issues. But let me hit on just the false narrative before I jump into how to run for State Central Committee. This is from a Cleveland Plain Dealer article by Andrew Tobias, who can write better than this and could actually go and get all sides to a story, but apparently he's too busy to do that. Just takes a quote from Justin Biz, the ORP executive director. With the disruptions during the September and December meetings, there are serious public safety concerns. At the December meeting, several people received a lawful order from Delaware Sheriff's deputies to leave the meeting, and they refused. Public attendees do not have a right to participate in and disrupt our meetings. Well, this is a bullshit narrative. Some of you that were at this meeting, this is a false January 6th Democrat-alike type narrative. Let me say that again. This is a false January 6th type Democrat-alike type narrative that apparently Justin Biz and Bob Paduchek are pretty comfortable with this kind of narrative. First off, you can watch. I'm not going to go in deep on this, but Mark Pukita recorded the meeting from two angles, and the meeting is online. This disruption that is alleged You don't find it in the actual videos of the meeting. But never mind, the kind of like Nancy Pelosi's January 6th committee, we've made a determination, and it doesn't matter what evidence shows, because we already know what the answer is. Just do what Bob Paduchek says and what Andrew Tobias and the media tell you, and just believe everything is hunky-dory and that these horrible things are going to happen if the public is let in. I just want to remind people again, this isn't, I don't think, about just Mike DeWine. It's about a party that is abusive to its own voters, the Republican Party in Ohio. And I can't be more proud to work with Mark Pukita. They're not, the party is not doing legislative and senatorial endorsements. Mark is such an outsider. He never would have been a serious contender for any kind of endorsement, but I can't be more proud to work with him and his ongoing stance that this is just wrong. The primary is a sacred time for the Republican primary voters to pick who they want to be our standard bearer in the general election, not for insiders to try to manipulate, rig, and steal the elections for whatever candidate Columbus believes is the right one. So this is all just a little setup to jump the shark moment. Jump the shark moment. I think Bob Paduchek will be known as the jump the shark ORP chair after a history of lackluster ORP chairs in terms of getting things done that we want done in Ohio or we need done and that the base works for. So with all that, let's talk about running for state central committee. We need people to run. A lot of people are contacting us now about running because they're so fed up with this. It's very easy. You only have until next Wednesday to get your petitions in, but they're very easy to do. And I'm going to talk about, I'm going to start by, I will go in more detail at the back end of this, but that Mark has been relentless in his focus on, we have got to get citizen candidates and people that bring skills to the table to run for state central committee, hopefully take out these swamp rhinos that would lock you out of their own meetings and take back our party. So he has a 4-point platform. If you agree with this 4-point platform, you file to run, you tell him about it. He will help. He will provide a donation to your campaign to help you be a reformer on the Ohio Republican Party State Central Committee. The 4 things that Mark stands for is ending primary endorsement is 1, ending secret voting, to have on-the-record roll call voting. I haven't mentioned that. They try to do secret voting and balloting. Start annual audits of the ORP books and live stream meetings. Hey, we already got one, because when they lock people out of the meeting, they're going to live stream it. So those are the 4 things. So let's get into what it takes and how you get at least in a position, namely on that second item on this list. That's going to be the most important, is to file to run, how you file to run for state central committee. And I'll cover some of the other things a little bit at the back, and I'll also cover February 4th, which, by the way, Bob can lock us out, but we have a separate room booked specifically for you to come and patriots to come, and we can watch the live stream together in there and hear speakers about the need for reform in the Ohio Republican Party. Okay, so let's get into how to file to run for state central committee. I'm going to try to slow down a little bit here, but not too much. This will be available for replay, so you can go back and watch it. The first thing, because it's not easy to put the links, I'll try to throw some of the links in, but just go to Google and search on 2022 Ohio Candidate Requirement Guide, 2022 Ohio Candidate Requirement Guide. That'll get you to the document you see on the screen here, which contains the information on how to run and how to do your petitions. And it's probably just about the easiest way to do it versus giving you some long link. Search on 2022 Ohio Candidate Requirement Guide. When you get to that document and open it up, it's PDF. Go to page 21 in that document. 21 is the requirements for running for state central committee and to be on state central committee. So it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to focus mostly on the petition. So there is a residency requirement. It's by Senate district. So by Senate district you live in, like I live in District 14. I know Mark Pukita lives in District 16, and I'll talk about how you find your Senate district with the maps. And you have to do a petition, which is Form 2J, J as in Jimmy, 2J. And that you only need 5 good signatures, only 5 good signatures to run for state central committee. And you can submit up to 15. So how to do that? 10, 15 signatures. You need 5 of them to be good, and we'll talk about the petition and how you do it. And you have to file, and I'll mention this again, with the most populous county in your district. So, for example, I live in Claremont County in District 14, and the other counties are like Brown and Scioto and Adams, and they're smaller counties. So if somebody from Adams County wanted to run for state central committee, they would file their petitions in Claremont County because it's the largest county within that Senate district. So let's talk about the petition. So this is Form 2J, and it's linked in that candidate requirement guide. So you can just click on it. It'll download, you fill it in, you can type in the information, your name, your address, that you are a Republican. You have to put in what district number you're in, which we'll talk about. Then what day the primary is, May 3rd, 2022. You're going to follow the principles of the Republican Party, our Republican Party, not Bob Paduchek's Republican Party, just so we're clear. And then what date you sign the declaration. So that top part of the petition is called the Declaration of Candidacy. And you fill that part out the way it's filled out here with your information, and then you sign that. Make sure to sign it before you get any signatures. You have to have signed it before you get any signatures. And I'm going to advise you to get at least 3 pages that you submit with your petition. At least 3, but you'll probably want to make some copies and make like 5, 6 copies of this form, sign them, have them all ready to go. And that's the top part, the Declaration of Candidacy. How do you find your state Senate district with all the chaos and confusion going on? You might see it on news stories, but if you go to a site called davesredistricting.org, davesredistricting.org, just the way it sounds, and you click on Ohio and you click on Senate districts, state Senate districts, this will have the maps. They're not completely done, but you're going to be okay if you get your signatures, because they passed some legislation to basically create wiggle room on your signatures for any of these offices. But you can use this map, and if it were online, we could actually zoom in and you can see down to the streets. So it's like a Google map underneath of it, what district you're in. So you could certainly probably call your Board of Elections and ask them. They might be confused. You can look up your state senator and see what district number it says. But you probably also want to look at something like this, davesredistricting.org, if you have any confusion, and then zoom in and make sure that you're picking the right area for where you live within the state. And then the ones, it's pretty easy for most of them. The ones that get confusing or complicated are where you get, like, you can see in, there's a series like where District 16 is and 25. There's a series jammed together when you have these urban areas. That's where it gets harder where you really need to zoom in to tell what district you're in. Okay. So on the petition, below the Declaration of Candidacy, you fill out another section. Who are you, Republican, and your name in that. And it's all type-inable. You can type in. And then you have the area for the signatures. And it says where the signatures go, it says signatures on this petition should be from only one county and must be written in ink. Signatures on this petition shall be of persons who are of the same political party as stated above by the candidate. So a Republican, we're talking about Republican State Central Committee. This is actually an example of why we could use significant improvements in the Secretary of State's office, because this is super confusing. And if you read what it says here, the words don't mean what they say. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. It says they have to be of the same party. Well, what does it mean to be of the same party? I'm going to cover that. I'm going to jump ahead here and cover it here. And I'll jump back to that page there. So the people who can sign your petition for State Central Committee are anybody who's a Republican in the voter database, meaning they vote in Republican primaries, or a person who shows as a no party in the voter database, which means they don't vote in any primary. Okay. The only people that really, to make it simple, the only people that can't sign are people who voted in a Democrat primary or another party's primary. You can sign, otherwise people can sign. And this is actually out of the election manual. And it says, determining party affiliation, an elector is considered to be a member of a political party if they voted in that party's primary election within the preceding 2 calendar years, or if they did not vote in any other party's election, primary election within the preceding 2 calendar years. So basically, unless you voted in a Democrat primary, or I don't know if there's any other primaries, but somebody else's primary, you're good to go on signing this form. So couple points I want to make sure on the petition is if you have signatures from more than one county, have a separate page per county. That was part of the disclaimer that I read, separate page per county. So most people, you don't have to have signatures from more than one county. You can just get your 5 signatures from your neighbors right on your street. Easy to do, ready to go, good to go on it. But if you did get signatures from more than one county, you need to submit them on separate pages, like a Franklin County page and a Delaware County page, if there was such a district. You need 5 good signatures total. You can only submit up to 15 signatures. This is important. If you submit more than 15, you're kicked off. Okay, so you're allowed to submit up to 3 times the number of signatures that you're required to have. So you're required to have 5, so you could submit 15. And I say have multiple pages. Why do I say have multiple pages? Because the form itself has room for 15 signatures. You might say like, oh, I'll just fill in this 15 signatures. You can have a technical error on a petition that causes the page to get kicked out. Like, let's say you forgot to sign a page and that caused the page to get kicked out. Or you messed up the circulator statement, which we'll talk about in a second. That caused the whole page to get kicked out. That's why it's best to have multiple pages so that if you could have one page get kicked out and you would still be okay. All right. So the last part of the petition after the signatures themselves is the circulator statement. And the very end, and you do that last, and then you print in the name of the circulator, Republican Party, and remember the definition of Republican is you voted in the Republican primary or you did not vote in the Republican and another party's primary in the last 2 years. And then you put down a number here, and that's the number of signatures that you captured on the form. So I'm going to flip back up a couple pages here. You see they're numbered 1, 2, 3 for the signatures here. And this is saying, how many signatures were there? So when you do a petition, you write in that the number of signatures. If somebody messes up a line on your petition, you can just cross it out, and just don't add that line in. Just don't add that line in. Generally speaking, I say if you're uncertain on a line, just leave it and count it in the total, and the Board of Elections will figure out if that's not a valid person or valid line. That won't cause you to get kicked off. You can get kicked off. A page can get thrown out because the number here is not correct. Like you put the wrong number because it's saying, I am the circulator of the foregoing petition containing signatures, blank signatures, that I witnessed the affixing of every signature. So when you put if the number's wrong, you can get your petition page kicked out. There has been recent case law that I found out because of one of Mark's volunteers telling me, is some recent case law that if that number's wrong, they really can't kick you off, but historically they have. So you better to just get it right so you don't have to deal with, some Board of Elections is following the old procedure and kicks the page out, and that has an effect on you. Then you have to go through a whole process to get it resolved in a hearing, and it'd be better just to get it right in the first place. Then down at the bottom, you put the circulator signs it, and where they're from, and they fill out their information down there. If you are circulating, so there's most of the time for State Central Committee, if you're the candidate, you're probably going to be circulating your own petition. So you're going to be getting your buddies to sign it, your friends to sign it. You need to make sure that you witness every signature. You cannot sign a petition that you're the circulator for. So if you're the person who's the circulator, your name is not one of the names that should sign it. Make sure the count is correct, and it needs to be submitted by 4 p.m. on February 2nd at the most populous county in your district. So the most populous county in your state Senate district is where it gets submitted. And so if you have somebody else circulate a petition for you, make sure that they follow these same rules. But you might want to have, if you're married, you could have your spouse sign a page, and be the circulator, and you sign the page they're circulating. So that's the way to get your signature, because since you can't sign your own page, you have like your spouse or a friend do a page that you can sign in there. You can submit, if you wanted to, I guess you could submit 15 pages with one signature each. I just recommend that you submit 3 pages. Submit at least 3 pages if you can, and just spread your signatures across them, so that if a page has an issue and it gets tossed, you're likely to still be able to be on the ballot with the other pages that don't get tossed, if that's the situation that takes place. All right. That was a lot of information that on one hand, it was a lot of information, and on the other hand, it is not. And what I'm going to do is, I see that there's comments people have put. What I'm going to do is, I'm not good at looking at comments and talking. So what I'll do is, before we get done here, I will look at the comments and see if there were specific questions as to the process that I went through, and I'll throw those up on the screen and address any questions. I want to make sure that people get questions addressed as to how to do this properly. So back to Mark. So if you agree with his 4-point platform, end ORP primary endorsement, end secret voting in ORP meetings, start annual audits of the ORP, and live stream the meetings, and you file to run, and you're the first person in your district to file to run, Mark will help you out on your campaign. So and that alerts him. So you send a note to info@markforohio.com to get involved with that. And then Mark is going to look at races and decide other races, specific races, to fund much more than just the $250, which will also include help with mailers and other activities to try to make sure we can take back this swamp ORP State Central Committee. One thing I think I might have failed to mention, and you talk about it so much, sometimes you forget to mention things. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware. There are 66 members of the State Central Committee, 33 women, 33 men. There are 33 Senate districts in Ohio. There is 1 woman and 1 man State Central Committee member for every Senate district. So that's how you get 66. So if you are a man and you are going to run, and you have swamp rhinos run in your State Central Committee, then try to get a woman to run with you, to get another person to run. And then same if you're a woman, try to get, because then it makes it more efficient, especially if you have swamp rhino State Central Committee members, that Mark can, mailers and stuff can be for both candidates, not just one candidate. And it's going to be a more attractive race. And if you watch and listen to Mark, some of the places that some of the people that get his goat the most on the State Central Committee. And if you're running against them, I guarantee you, Mark's going to be pretty excited about you running. So that's the key parts of the process and Mark's plan. Now, what I want to do is pop back over here. And before we close here and I look at the questions people might have had, I want to remind everybody that on February 4th, the ORP, I already mentioned this a lot, has locked the public out. Our governor and statewide are so popular that they're afraid of a January 6th situation. Per Justin Biz, they're so popular, they're worried about a January 6th situation should they let the public anywhere around these candidates that are supposedly so beloved. By the way, anybody that goes this, you ever notice there aren't any Mike DeWine people? There aren't any people that come from the public supporting the ORP doing backroom primary endorsements. Isn't that kind of interesting? Nobody comes, only the people in the room that are elected do this. Now, I've never seen a citizen that comes in going like, I love it. I'm an idiot and I need you to tell me who to vote for. This doesn't seem to be happening. But on February 4th, Mark, a long time ago, booked a separate room in the same place they're having the meeting with capacity for 150 people to basically have a Stop ORP Primary Endorsements event. And what we'll be doing is we'll start at 9:30. We will have speakers then. We will watch the live stream of the ORP meeting from 10 until when it ends. And then we will have more speakers. And I think you might be surprised at some of the guest speakers we're going to have to talk about this rigged process. And the funny part that the beloved Mike DeWine and others are so confident of their love in our state that they absolutely need this rigged process to back them up. They can't run without this rigged process to support them. But that's February 4th. If you're wondering how to sign up or let us know you're coming, There is an Eventbrite, and if you go search on the Eventbrite, the title is Ohio Republican Party Special Event, Spot RP endorsements, Mark Pukita for U.S. Senate Committee. And if you go out there, you can sign up for this event to make sure that you have a chair reserved. But this also gets trolled. So when in doubt, let's just get there. Let's just be at the event and in a polite, respectful, American way, let these people know that we do not appreciate being treated like kings. This is, you know what, you ever seen a bumper sticker that said the founding fathers would be revolting already? So these people are not in the spirit of our founding fathers. They're in the spirit of communist Politburo, the way they try to run our Republican Party. Okay, so those are the main things that I wanted to cover on the process. And let me take this off the screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look here. It's on the other side of my screen. So I'm going to look over here and see if there's any questions that people had that I didn't answer. So I will, and I'm going to go right down the list here. So 7 days, is it 7 days, Antonia? So I'd have to do the math, but the petitions are due at the most populous county by the 4th, by 4 p.m. on Wednesday, February 2nd, which is next week. Okay, so do you have the number of signatures needed to get on the ballot for Senate? So we were talking about State Central Committee here. To get on the ballot for Senate is 50 signatures. So 50 signatures, but that same candidate requirement guide that I directed you to, I said to go to page 21, I believe. But if you go to look at the table of contents, it has the requirements for every office. And pretty much every office is 50 signatures, except for the statewide offices that are 1,000 signatures, like for Senate and things like that. All right. So, okay. So somebody asked this question here. I was going to run, but I don't have an 11 by 14 printer. I don't even have a printer. Why can't this online? Well, obviously, people can't sign a petition online. So it's not so these have to be, we have to have election integrity on this. You can print the 8.5 by 14 forms on 8.5 by 11 paper. Let me jump back here. The forms are 8.5 by 14. The natural forms, and I recommend using 8.5 by 14. But you can print them on 8.5 by 11 paper. They are meant to be two-sided, but you can also staple them together, and they are supposed to take them even if they're not printed on the 8.5 by 14 or they're not two-sided. Just make sure if you do not print them two-sided, staple them immediately so you don't mix up a front and back page that don't go together, which could get you have a problem with it. As for printing, I appreciate the not having a printer, but find a friend that has a printer or go down to the Staples. Go to a place that has a printer and walk in there with a memory stick or something on your computer saying, I want to print, I need a couple printouts of this. And I'm sure they can help. I said for less than $1, for less than $1 or $2, you can get your printing done someplace, or just walk into someplace and ask, hey, can you print something? Go to a hotel. Another thing is, if you live in a place where there's not like, we don't have a Staples, we don't have a FedEx, Kinko's, find a motel, go there. Those kind of places will have a printer, because they have guests that'll be wanting to be able to print something. And I'm sure if you ask them, they will have no problem doing that. I'm just going to go through all these. Okay, I agree they've jumped the shark. We can't even get state media coverage. The state media is so in the tank for these guys. They just go with that narrative of, there was some sort of insurrection in December. Those of us that were there know that was a setup on the part of Bob Pukita. There was no thing, and it acts like, well, people wouldn't leave. Well, that's also baloney that people wouldn't leave. They never did anything to really push people out or anything. But here's the other issue they had that people are hiding, is that their bylaws state that they have to be open to the public. So they weren't going to go on with the meeting after they kicked the people out anyway. So they were just trying to make a narrative that they had to stop the meeting. So I'm going to skip Jacob's one column here. And filing on Monday is good. Okay. And so more power to you, Jacob, to get yours in. And And this is somebody who was there that would not. I was there. Police did not have to physically remove anyone. Or so it's, Damon, this was a false narrative, and Andrew Tobias should be ashamed, and Jeremy Peltzer should be ashamed that their paper is part of a false narrative. I don't think Andrew Tobias was even at the event. Okay. And so to write this, to just accept this Justin Biz nonsense. But let's remember this. Our party leaders are so afraid of their base that they are trying to have the ghost of the January 6th thing towards the Republicans in Ohio. Okay. Towards the Republicans in Ohio. So let's go. Let me keep going down here. And so Mary shared a bunch of links here that people can use those links. And then Antonio has a thing that sent it. So most, if people don't understand what I was saying, is most populous means this, the county in your Senate district that has the most people that live in it, that's the most populous, and that's where you need to file your state central committee petition. And so the Senate district map, who knows, but they passed a law that basically says signatures are going to count, and it got passed with it's a whole different discussion we're going to have on supermajority, which means it'll take effect immediately. Normally laws don't take effect for 90 days. But if to the map as it is now, or probably even your current district number, if you file under that, you're probably going to be fine, because they put like passed a thing because the actual legislator people have problems with their petitions because of these things, because of changing district lines and so forth. So I might keep going here, and maybe this was about the state Senate. So 50 is required for state Senate, 150 max. And you can look at most all the positions are that. On those, be sure to look at look at that candidate requirement guide, and it has the information in the candidate requirement guide, for each of those offices. And there's actually clickers, and you can jump to the requirements, and it actually then has links to each of the different petitions that are required. I will mention here as a side note, if you're running for county central committee, so county central committee is a different thing. That would also have a February 2nd filing deadline. I have not talked about county central committee. It's actually page 22 of that same candidate requirement guide that I directed you to. But on a county central committee, there can be two different petitions. So you need to confirm with your Board of Elections what petition gets used, because there's two different formats for county central committee. And you would just have to know somebody or ask your county Board of Elections what form gets used for your party. This is a good point. Libraries will print, FedEx stores will print. A lot of places. I'm a business guy used to traveling. I've never had trouble getting something printed. I could walk into a school and ask, I'm having like this issue. Could you print 2 pages for me? And I'm going to usually get told, yes, no problem. So let me see. I didn't read all this one. I was asked to run for county central committee. The process seems very similar. Would you consider it being much more wide? No, I think both have their place, and it depends on your county. So county central committees, a state central committee is state level. It meets 4 times a year. And then if you have a well-done county, your county central committee might meet like so many times a year. And then usually a well-done county has a club, and the club is who might meet every month. But they're both, county central committee is going to be kind of the same thing for more local offices. The state central committee would be for bigger picture offices. And it all depends on the time. The key thing is that with state central committee is there's 88 different counties, and they range from well done to horribly swamp counties. We know the ORP state central committee is swamp, and if it gets upended, it'll have a cascading effect, I think, on the counties. Many of the counties are moving towards no endorsements and primaries because it just rigs. There's a lot of bad behavior comes out of no endorsements. Okay. And then I don't know, I'm going to put this one up here, but you can run for both state central committee and county central committee. They're 2 different things. It's 2 different places on the ballot that you show up, and you can be in both offices. In fact, came up earlier is you can run for other things and run for county and state central committee. You might know that there's people that are on your county central committee that are in elected offices. The ORP state central committee in their bylaws, which they routinely ignore, like when they kicked the malcontents off committees, when they don't allow roll call voting, which there's nothing in their rules that would preclude doing. They now they're going to violate that. They specifically say they have to be a public meeting. And in Ohio, a public meeting means you're allowed in the room. That's what a public meeting in Ohio means. They just ignore their bylaws. There are some rules in their bylaws about certain offices you can't hold. You're not supposed to hold while on state central committee. And they are not constitutional and they're not legal. They've just never been challenged. So do not hesitate to run for state central committee. And I want to throw in something else here is when in doubt, submit. When in doubt, submit. Even if you think like, oh, I have a malcontent that represents me, or I have this, submit. Why? And is if you will get submitted and then you decide, like in my county, they would say up to a month that you don't want to run. I changed my mind. I don't want to run. Your name isn't even on the ballot. Your name isn't even on the ballot. So you can submit. And then after you've submitted, based on who else submitted, say, oh, no, I don't want to do it. Pull my petitions. And your name doesn't get on the ballot. And even after typically 30 days, you could still say, I don't want to run. And if you've ever voted, when you've gone into vote, and they might have in that case, your name would be on the ballot, but they're going to have a thing in the voting booth saying, John Doe is not running. They withdrew from the race. But you can submit, and then always, if you say like, oh no, I got like some good people running, you can go and always have your name pulled off the ballot before it's ever even printed. And why do I say also submit? I'm going to throw it back up here because of this dirty trick type stuff. So other people, the state central, the politicos like do these dirty trick things like what's happening in Mark Bainbridge's district. I'm told. So just file. You can always drop off, but just see the lay of the land. We need to get people to make sure that they don't think, lackadaisically that, oh no, I heard my malcontent person's going to run, or because you always have like, what would happen in this scenario? Let me give you an example here. What would happen if this Mark Bainbridge deal, where they're trying to basically fool the voters in the great spirit of a communist party? What if he had a problem on his petition? So he had filed and he gets booted off the ballot because he has a petition issue and nobody else that was a good guy had filed. So it's better to have more people file because you can always pull your name off. But, you have this risk that you do have people get dropped off ballots for issues with their signatures or issues with their petitions, or they didn't sign something correctly or this and that and the other thing. So that is, the something to consider. And when in doubt, file. Just file. It's not that hard. You can get it printed out. It's, we're Americans. We can figure out how to get a form printed out and get five good signatures to up to 15 maximum. This is not, if this is all we have to do to defend our freedoms and our future, when we look at the sacrifices that other people have made to buy us our freedoms and our future, this ain't nothing. This ain't nothing to go get 5 signatures. It won't even take that long. And it'll demystify the process for you some. And then the next thing that you can do is you might get all whipped up. Hey, I could run for a regular office and I could run for some other office where I need 50 signatures or where I can get 150. And then all of a sudden you start to really, get involved. And by the way, the insiders, they don't want you to get involved. They don't want you to get involved. They want you to just vote the way you are told and not get involved. And and I don't know why the background isn't there. So I don't know the background wasn't there. So I'm going to restart and do it with the background properly there. I'm joking. So, hey, that is the gist. I think I answered all the questions in the chat. And hopefully, and as Antonio says here, and I'll end it with this is, here's what we got to do is just do it. Just go out there, get your petitions this weekend. It's not that hard. We can take back our Republican Party in Ohio. And if we take it back, we might actually be governed like a Republican conservative state versus what happens now where we're kind of not that distinguishable from a Democrat-run state, because we get people in there that don't in any way govern like Ron DeSantis. They govern like Mike DeWine. Mike DeWine's a great example of somebody who doesn't govern as a conservative. Let's take it back and let's move our party forward. Thank you all for joining. And don't forget, info at Mark, the number 4 Ohio.com is how you let Mark know that you're running and that you want to be considered for his program to help support those people that are trying to take back our state and our state party. All right. I think that's it for Friday. I'm not your boss, but if you want to leave work right now, I got no problem with that. You can just head out the door. But thank you, everybody, for joining and tuning in. We're not going to have a truth bomb on Monday, I don't think, because Mark has a conflict that I think we're going to have trouble even getting one done separately from it. So keep posted as to when the next truth bomb will be. And thank you all for joining. Tell your friends. We can take it back. We can do this. It's not that hard. And have a great weekend.